Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. As always, I hope this video finds you in an excellent part of your day. Today, we're gathering once more to talk about what's happening with Ubisoft, where their situation's getting way worse by the minute, and also they are getting insanely desperate, as we're going to cover today. Not only have they acknowledged the buyout rumors surrounding Tencent gobbling up Ubisoft and how they're exploring as many options as possible, but we're also going to get into what's happening with Assassin's Creed. And when it rains, it may pour, because holy smokes, are there a lot of Assassin's Creed games on the way. I still enjoy a good Assassin's Creed game every now and again, but that's because Ubisoft made it infrequent after doing annual releases. Now it looks like we may be getting like 3 within a year span between Shadows, this new full-fledged mobile title, and then a Black Flag remake, which is on the horizon and much closer than you may expect. All of this is happening while Ubisoft's stock price plummets. It did see a small bump up to $15 per share, or around that price point, before falling once more. That was because of the buyout rumors surrounding Tencent, and when Ubisoft responded, a lot of people are getting the feeling it's not happening anytime immediately, probably in a post-Shadows world, so a lot of folks stopped buying in and probably sold off quickly. But Ubisoft, in their acts of desperation, have started to do things like say bring their games to Steam. And so that means that a lot of PC gamers are winning. And hey, do you know anything about Apex? Let's talk about them real quick. PC gamers have been collecting a lot of W's, and I got one more for you. Right now, Apex is having a site-wide flash sale, 25% off. All you have to use is the code PARTNERS25. You get 25% off anything you see on the site here or that I talk about in this little stretch of the video. Right now, we're seeing a lot of developers finally bring their games to Steam. Ubisoft's doing it. We have BioWare doing it. Why are they all caving? It's because PC gaming is growing in a massive way, and Apex is making it really easy for you to get into PC gaming with their phenomenal pre-built options. I'm going to be focusing on the Apex Streamer Plus. Last time around, we focused on the Apex Streamer, but since you're getting such a good deal here, you can get a better PC that's going to be at like a middle PC option price point, which I think is just great. The Streamer Plus comes packed in with an AMD Ryzen 5 7600X 6-core 5.3 gigahertz. You have 32 gigs of RAM. You have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4060 Ti, a terabyte of SSD. This thing's an absolute beast, and with 25% off, you can get it for an absolute song. Plus, Apex makes it even easier because you can also finance all of their PC. So there's a lot of ways to approach getting into PC gaming, and there's no better time than right now to start investigating that. So again, link down below if you want to check out any of Apex's PC options. Use code Matty if you're checking this out after October 13th. Get 10% off. But if you're looking at it right now up until October 13th, 25% off. Use the code PARTNERS25. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about Ubisoft and these buyout rumors. As I had predicted, which wasn't like a big, bold prediction at all, I was like, Tencent's no doubt going to start sniffing around. And that was reported by Bloomberg, and now Ubisoft has responded to said buyout rumors directly to Eurogamer, who asked the question. So let's check out their article here, titled Ubisoft Acknowledges Buyout Reports, stating it regularly reviews options. Today, Ubisoft shared a statement regarding this report with Eurogamer. Ubisoft has noted recent press speculation regarding potential interest around the company. The company wrote, "It regularly reviews all its strategic options in the interest of its stakeholders and will inform the market if and when appropriate." The company reiterates that management is currently focused on executing its strategy centered on 2 core verticals: open world adventures and games as a service native experiences. So there is not a whole lot to read into here other than what I think is a pretty blatant acknowledgement of Ubisoft is having talks with Tencent about a potential buyout or possibly going private. They are investigating all options because the situation has become real. The stock price has been plummeting for a while. They are a dying company. They need to take action sooner than later. But as I said in my last Ubisoft video, I do feel like they are trying to hold out as best they can until Assassin's Creed Shadows to hopefully give them a little more life. As we'll talk about with the slew of Assassin's Creed titles coming up, they are banking heavily on this series to pull them out of the spot they are in. They are hoping that Assassin's Creed fans are going to show up en masse because, quite frankly, outside of maybe the occasional little game here or there, it looks like that is where Ubisoft is turning their attention to, a lot of Assassin's Creed games. But Tencent's floating around, and as I said in my last video on Ubisoft as well, I don't think people want this. I know Ubisoft isn't a great company, but if you think the monetization is bad, the quality is bad now, I don't think Tencent's going to help that out at all, and if anything, potentially make it worse as they cut more corners. But I talked a lot about Assassin's Creed, what's coming up on the docket. I want to get into that because that's where the conversation gets really interesting on just how far Ubisoft is going. Like I mentioned, 3 Assassin's Creed games within a year, potentially, if you include Shadows, Jade, as well as Black Flag Remake. So let's take a look here at a lot of reports coming in from Insider Gaming. This first one says, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake is closer than you think. It's there they write, when rumors of Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake began to circulate on the internet, many, including ourselves, assumed that the game would still be some years away from releasing. However, new details and documentation on the game sent to Insider Gaming under the condition that it does not go public suggest that the game is well into development and could be released much sooner than we all thought. In fact, prior to the recent Assassin's Creed Shadows delay, which is understood to have affected the Assassin's Creed pipeline of content releases, the Assassin's Creed Black Flag Remake, codenamed Obsidian, was to be released around November 2025, which would be around the same time the series multiplayer offering Code Invictus is to be released. Insider Gaming understands that this is part of Ubisoft's ramp-up strategy for the Assassin's Creed series, which will see 10 Assassin's Creed titles of various lengths and experiences released in the next 5 years. This includes Assassin's Creed codenamed Jade, a full-fledged mobile offering with a tentative date of Q2 2025. Unfortunately, though, the recent Assassin's Creed Shadow delay, which Mark Alexis Cote sent to staff in an internal email, will also impact the rest of the Assassin's Creed roadmap, may have skewed these dates a little bit. That being said, to some, the Black Flag Remake is probably coming a few years earlier than some of us may have expected. Gameplay sent to Insider Gaming of the Black Flag Remake under the condition that it does not go public shows Edward Kenway sailing a ship on the upgraded Anvil engine. This is a very interesting development because I think that is one of the projects that sort of rests as something a lot of Assassin's Creed fans would be interested in because it, for many, serves as like a last bastion of great Assassin's Creed content. For me, it was really with Unity and Syndicate. Like, that's to me where I started to really detach from the franchise in a big way until Odyssey kind of roped me back in. I imagine this is closer than we expect because of Skull and Bones. That is just a prediction on my part. I think when you look at Skull and Bones, the big question we asked with that game and why it even exists at all is because you just may as well make Black Flag again or do a new entry in that series somehow. I don't know, but you kind of have the pirate game there. So I imagine a lot of resources and assets were shared between these two games. They do share an engine as well. That is my prediction, is that that game just kind of got out the door to recoup as much cost as they could. They already knew it was going to be a failure, that most of that stuff was going to get poured right into a Black Flag remake, which is why, as great as it sounds, I do find it to be a very random remake. Like, when I look at games from the Assassin's Creed lineup that I think need a remake, I look at 1 even. You know, I think 2 holds a lot of value in people's heart. I'm not advocating for it, more so because I know it's a classic video game, but definitely if you're trying to stoke the fires of interest, I look at 2 as like the moment that this series really won our hearts. Ubisoft won our hearts. Obviously, for everyone, it differs from game to game because this entry is so far spanning with so many titles to play. Your answer may differ from mine. I love Assassin's Creed 3 after Sequence 6, and I would have loved to see an actual remake of that where they kind of, you know, fix how the story is paced out, where maybe you can explore the open world a little sooner. So to me, Assassin's Creed 4 has aged remarkably well, where I never really pegged it as a remake target, but I imagine because of what's happening with Skull and Bones, it just made this the easier remake where you could lower the amount of investment and just focus on making content, really, because a lot of the art stuff, at least, could have been ahead of the game. I don't know. Again, just a educated guess, if anything here. But what you also see inside this report is the absolutely stunning number of 10 Assassin's Creed games in various lengths and experiences released in the next 5 years. And they also mentioned here that there is Invictus, which is a multiplayer offering on top of course, Assassin's Creed Shadows. We have Assassin's Creed Shadows co-op mode, Jade, the Black Flag remake. So that is 5 Assassin's Creed experiences packed into potentially 1 year, and that's accounting for the delay. If you start with Assassin's Creed Shadows, which got moved back a handful of months, and you move everything else back a handful of months, I still think all that can fit in that year and a half window, and it's gonna get oversaturated again. And that's just like, that was the problem in the first place with Ubisoft. But again, it speaks to the desperate spot they are in, that this is what they need to do to stay afloat. They go in on Assassin's Creed, which is effectively their cash cow. I'm curious what happens with series like Far Cry. I'm curious what happens with series like Splinter Cell, which people have wanted to come back for a while. I feel like the problem with Ubisoft oversaturation is it kills the enthusiasm of the other products it's connected to, because none of their series have been able to create an identity of their own because they all share so many elements. So if like an open world in Assassin's Creed is bad, it's likely going to bleed into Far Cry, and it's a compounding, cascading effect that happens game after game. So this is a pretty big risk for them, in my opinion. This is a really big investment, and it's really what led to people being fatigued with Ubisoft is the consistent annual open world releases. Now, I know they're talking about different lengths and experiences and all that stuff. One's multiplayer, one's mobile. Like, I probably won't touch these games, but generally speaking, it's a lot of Assassin's Creed. And it went from a series that you saw all the time to taking a little bit of a break, taking a year off, coming back year in, year out. And I think a lot of people developed a bit of a connection to the series again because it was something you could look forward to. Now we're going back into that well of, okay, here's a lot of Assassin's Creed coming your way. So I'll keep an open mind because I really do like Assassin's Creed, but yeah, it's going to be one of those situations potentially where back in the mid 2010s, I was just fading out because even though games like Syndicate were great, I was so tired of them because I was seeing them all the time that I ended up not enjoying it as much as I really should have. So that's what's going on with Assassin's Creed, but there's more crumbling at Ubisoft potentially in what's happening with Rainbow Six, as Insider Gaming also reports Vice President of Rainbow Six Cameron Lee has left Ubisoft. They write Cameron Lee joined the Rainbow Six brand in April of 2022 after working as Vice President of Production at Activision, but had previously had over 20 years of experience as a producer, manager, and VP at companies including EA, Bungie, and BioWare, and has worked on franchises like Tony Hawk, Call of Duty, and Dragon Age. Following the announcement to join the Rainbow Six franchise, Ubisoft said that Lee will be responsible for creating the long-term brand strategy for the Rainbow Six franchise and aligning and collaborating with all internal partners. It's unclear why Lee decided to leave the franchise and the company, but an internal email sent to staff reads, "For the time being, the role of VP and executive producer for the Rainbow Six brand will not be replaced." It's a very short time to be with the company, and now you could speculate one of two ways. One is saying that his job was done. He was there to make a long-term strategy. He formed it, created the roadmap, and boom, job's done. That's option one. Option two is you see how Ubisoft is crumbling. There's a lot of changes going on internally. We just learned about 10 Assassin's Creed games. That's the focus right now. Is that going to take something away from Rainbow Six? Does he see his job, his role diminishing over time? Does he move on to something else because of that? Who knows? Again, Rainbow Six is a big success. Siege is an awesome game. I haven't played it in years, so I don't know if it got worse or anything, but I played it a ton at launch in its first 2 years of life and really enjoyed my time with it. It's actually one of the more unique Ubisoft experiences, which is something I hope they continue to pursue because, again, that game is awesome. I don't know where it stands right now personally, but I know the community is still pretty active with it, which was one of the bigger surprises is Siege was not supposed to be successful. I remember the reviews were kind of lukewarm for it, but it just gathered a player base that kept coming back more and more and more. So given the state of the company, it's easy to look at this and go, there might be a problem here. I'm going to keep that door open because there might be, but it's just something that you should be aware of. And right now, there are individuals from the Ubisoft family, we'll say, that are responding to said posts. One such was from a monetization director who did say that gamers are celebrating the downfall of Ubisoft, wishing ill toward these companies, stating that it is always the vocal minority that express themselves on social media. They're hurt and ashamed to be part of this community, and even calling industry colleagues non-decent human beings because thousands of employees are being affected by the hate despite doing their best to deliver incredible experiences. Following that up by saying, how can you wish a company to fail simply because they do not cater to you or the product does not please you is beyond me. This individual was the monetization director at Ubisoft, which tells you a lot there, but that position aside, what you see here is what I feel a lot of companies kind of get in this pocket of like self-absorption, because what this screams to me is like, shut up and buy, right? Like that's what I get from this sort of thing. Like, how could you have a problem with this? It's like, there's a lot. In fact, monetization director, like time savers, we see how it's gradually invested single player games because that monetization cascades. It impacts the design of the game because now you have to consider what's the XP balancing when someone pays for it, because you have to create value there versus what's fair for someone who's not going to pay for it. And the list goes on. Obviously, if this individual or others at Ubisoft are just getting pure hate for working at the company and doing their job, that should never be condoned. That should never be happening. It's about leadership. It's not about the people who are in the trenches doing the grunt work. And I hope people are smart enough to be able to separate those two, because it's important as we try to evolve the conversation that is understood. But to say that products don't cater to you and therefore you should have nothing to say is ridiculous, because I think Ubisoft IP are extremely far-reaching. That's a good thing for Ubisoft to have. You have Assassin's Creed, you have Far Cry, Prince of Persia, Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six. You have these global brands that people know of and love. And so, yeah, you kind of need to cater to your customers. And when there's quality issues, you might want to tighten things up. And I understand that may not say much to the monetization director of a company where your job is to pretty much extract cash from the people who have already paid for the game and kind of manipulate the game's design. Do I think it's strange when I see gamers literally saying, I hope Ubisoft shuts down? Or I've been covering Bethesda a lot lately. I hope Bethesda shuts down. I'm like, yeah, I don't get on that whole train. I don't pray for companies to absolutely plummet into the ground because people lose their jobs, because I have a lot of memories with the games these companies make. And sometimes, not always, there is a worser fate than what we're currently facing right then and there. And it's easy to get that tunnel vision. So I understand some of what's trying to be said here, but this is why when you get emotional, don't go on social media. It's the worst thing you can do. Trust me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have said my part here on Ubisoft. The situation continues to get worse, and I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts down below. So let me know how you're feeling about what's going on with Ubisoft, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.